And Succour is gradually coming the way of Nigerians affected by flood across the country as the federal government has begun the distribution of relief materials to heavily impacted communities following a comprehensive assessment of recent incidents. According to a statement from the National Emergency Management Agency, teams from the zonal, territorial and operational offices have increased the pace of flood impact assessments in states including Jigawa, Gombe, Bauchi, Sokoto, Zamfara, Ondo, Katsina, and Lagos during the last week. In communities experiencing drought episodes in Adamawa, Borno, Cross River, Taraba, and Yobe states, bringing untold hardship, NEMA is also distributing food and other relief materials. The federal government says it remains committed to providing timely relief to affected communities while it continues to raise awareness on disaster reduction. For more perspectives on this development, I'm joined by environment activist Desmond Majakudumi. Mr. Majakudumi, thank you for joining us on TVC News at 10. How do you explain what's happening right now? We're reporting flooding in some parts of the country, sweeping houses away, even people dying, and then at the same time, there is terrible drought affecting agriculture in some other parts.
Yes, well, the lawmaker said it all. As our hearts go out to the people that have been affected by this terrible, terrible tragedy, lives lost, homes, livelihoods destroyed, farming capability diminished. He said it all in that this is unprecedented. He said they've never had this type of rainfall before. Now, this has been predicted many years ago by the world meteorological scientists under the auspices of the International Panel for Climate Change. They said that if we continue doing what we're doing against nature, against the environment, that nature is going to respond in this way. In fact, the Secretary General of the United Nations, he said that mankind is waging war against nature, and this is suicidal because nature always fights back. She gives you what you give her. It's the fundamental law of retribution. What you sow is what you reap. It's there in all the scriptures. It's called, in this case, climate change, global warming, where you can have what they call rain bomb. It's no longer rainfall in some areas. They call it rain bomb, the kind of rain that will just fall unprecedented in the history of that location. And then you travel a few hundred kilometers, you see an area, no rain at all. This is what happens when we mess around too much with the wonderful miracle of creation, God Almighty's system that supports life, that gives us the rain in a steady way, in a manageable way, in a seasonable way.
Indeed.
That gives us all our life support.
I hear you very clearly. Is this something that can still be salvaged? What can be done in the short and long term?
This is an excellent question. And I do believe that we shall be doing the right things. We're seeing some very good signs now coming out in our Nigeria. We're seeing a lot of moving towards getting cleaner energy systems. This compressed natural gas, whilst it's still a fossil fuel, while it still causes problems, especially if it leaks, it's much cleaner than the other systems, and it's cheaper, and we have it in abundance, and I see there's a move for that. That move has to be far, far more aggressive because it's no longer a crisis, as the Secretary General of UN said. It's an emergency. And then, of course, we need to retain our forests, protect our forests. Do you know that we have protected forest areas that are being degraded every day, where trees are being cut? They're not supposed to be cut. We're supposed to protect those forests as if our lives depend on it, because guess what? Our lives and our children's lives do depend on it. And then we need to plant more and more trees, hundreds of millions of trees. We're seeing some initiatives in that direction. But for the immediate thing, there has to be flood relief systems, which we're seeing is going on in Zamfara, which is encouraging. But we need to build far more canals. We need to not block the drainage systems, because nature has a way of draining herself as well through the mangrove areas, through the streams. And we must make sure that those streams and those rivers are not silted off. We've been cutting too much vegetation on the side of these streams and rivers, and that allows the erosion to now pour more sand, and the rivers and streams can no longer fully evacuate the flood water that comes in there. We must start living more harmoniously with nature, and it's a wake-up call to humanity in general and to Nigeria. You reap what you sow, so we should be careful.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can begin to match words with action in seeing some sort of a national emergency in this regard and build policies and systems around it. That's our time. Environment activist Desmond Majekodumi, thank you so much for sharing with us. We'll return with